Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. My name is Heather, and on this channel we like to walk a fine line between a shopping addicted makeup monster and a responsible adult with a makeup hobby. Now, I really enjoy eyeshadow singles, duochromes, multichromes, blush, highlight, lip gloss, basically everything except pressed glitter. And today we're going to be talking through some of the olivey greens that I already have in my collection in the hopes that it can slow me down from buying new ones. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, stick with me. We're getting into it right now. Now, obviously, Nomad Cosmetics just launched their what is the name of the park? Okavango? Gosh, I'm butchering the heck out of that, I'm sure. Okavango Safari palette. You have Natasha Denona coming out with the Yucca palette, and a lot of what's happening right now is neutrals with olivey greens. So I wanted to show you some palettes that I have in my collection already that have some of those types of colors in them, in the hopes that maybe you also have some of these palettes, and then it can save you from rushing out to buy something you technically already have. Okay, so the first one to talk about is, I'm going to talk about a couple that have like pops of those types of olivey green shades, and then we'll go into palettes that are basically all olivey green shades. The first one to talk about is ABH Nouveau. I just picked this up during Sephora VIB sale this year, so I haven't gotten a chance to use it just yet. But this like very soft kind of khaki olive shade, you've got this kind of minty shade, and then you've got this kind of deeper olivey green shade there. I also during the sale picked up Gemini, the original Melt Gemini palette, because it went on like half price, plus then you got 20% off, and of course you have this entire area over here that is just pure olivey goodness. You've got one metallic green and then a couple of really beautiful kind of matte greens to finish that out, and then of course a beautiful black. The Gemini 2 also has a couple of like olivey green shades in it, but it's much more like predominantly pinky red tones. I did also pick up this Nude Ego Unleashed Wild 6-pan palette from BH Cosmetics, and I found this one at TJ Maxx for $4.99, but this obviously is a bunch of olivey shades with a pop of mint. We have the Huda Beauty Khaki Haze palette. Now obviously this has nothing to do with the quality of the palette, it's really only about like the color story, so this one definitely fits that kind of neutrals with khakis kind of a color story, even though the quality of this one is debatable. And then I did also want to show the Clarity Cosmetics Croc palette, because this one has been going in and out of stock. I'm going to try to hold it very gently because otherwise it may fall. But basically these kind of like neutral, cool tone neutrals, you've got some like grungy olivey shades here and here. I think those colors definitely make this fit the bill for what we're talking about right now. And certainly if this comes back in stock, this might be another alternative that you want to think about. Unless, of course, you already have it. I also pulled out the Made by Mitchell palette. This is the Feet on the Ground color story. And it looks like this thing is enormous, but you've got like some kind of khaki browns here, you've got this kind of olivey shade here, you've got this grassy green shade here. It's not like full on, you know, army khaki kind of colors, but it definitely has enough pops there that it made me think of this particular palette. And then one palette I definitely thought of for this prompt, but actually does not have that many like khaki army pukey greens in it, is the Moonspell Volume 1 by Lunar Beauty, because I was like, oh yeah, there's an entire row of greens, and there's really not. There's like 2 shades here, and then you have like teal shades here, and this is definitely of course a neutral. So I wanted to pull it out because I thought a lot of people would think of this palette, even though it technically doesn't have a lot of shades to support the theme. Similarly, the Raw Beauty Christie At Forest Sight palette has a couple of like murky kind of greeny brown shades in here, and then you've got a couple like warmer toned neutrals in here in case that is more your vibe. I also pulled this one out. This is Unicorn Gang Shop, and I want to say it's like their Fairy Nymph palette or something like that. But it looks like this on the cover, beautiful cover art, and then inside here. And of course you really just have these kind of 2 swampy colors, But again, I feel like they're such a useful part of this palette that everything kind of goes with them. So I wanted to show that one off. Plus, always love a chance to debut indie brands. NARS Climax palette looks like this. Neutrals with a pop of olivey kind of a color, definitely. And then of course there is the dupe of that from Makeup Revolution, the Ultimate Desire palette. On the more budget-friendly side of things, you have the Emeralds palette from Profusion, probably one of their best palettes they ever put together. Definitely some swampy greens, you get a couple pops of teal here, and then you have more your neutral shades in here that kind of round everything out. The Tarte Holiday Collection from this past year is on clearance on their website, so I thought I would make mention of this and remind you, if you already have it, this entire row down here is exactly what you're looking for with those kind of swampy olivey greens. The other Clarity palette I pulled out was the Cobra palette, and this one definitely fits the bill less because it's really just these two shades up here, but I feel like it complements everything else so nicely in the palette that I did want to remind you that it exists in case you already had it. Same with the Beauty Bay Wilderness palette. If you already have this one, you have this lovely row of kind of swampy murky shades here in the center, and then you've got some kind of cooler tones and brighter reds to balance that out with. Oh gosh, let's just throw this on the floor. And then the newest acquisition to my collection is the Scooby-Doo Part 2 palette. And this one has very few swampy murky greens. It's basically just this row right here. And then you can kind of make the case for this like orangey, chartreusey kind of color right there. Now to get into some basically all green palettes, I have just a handful here. First up is BH Avocado Toast. If you can find this one at TJ Maxx, this would be perfect. Because you've got neutrals, you've got some olivey greens, you've got one like kind of tealy shade down here, but everything else is very olive and neutral. The Star Wars Mandalorian palette, the original. Definitely lots of swampy shades there. And if you don't want to get this one or you don't want to pay for shipping, then you could consider the Fresh Greens, which is one of the ones you can pick up from Target. And it looks like this. Beautiful. Odin's Eye and Angelic Neekvis, if you already have this in your collection. Lots of beautiful grungy swampy greens. And then a couple of pinks. This is another palette that I pulled out because I thought a lot of people would recall this palette and feel like it was really olive toned, but it's not necessarily. And that is the Tribe by Juvia's Place. And it looks like that. Then I've got the Glam Shop. This is the W. Moreau palette. This is their like khaki army green palette, which of course fits the bill to a T. And these are metallics, not pressed glitters, even though they reflect in a way that makes you think they're pressed glitters. I have the Glam Light Dirty Martini palette, which of course lots of murky swampy shades there. And last but certainly not least, the Ace Beauté Tropical Vibes, which is basically an entire palette of murky, swampy green shades. All right, and with that said, I would definitely like to hear from you. Let me know if you have palettes in your collection already that are neutrals with this kind of pop of olivey, khaki type greens. I would definitely like to know. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you go, and I'll catch you in my next video. Bye.